Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Yoga Break It Down. I'm Yoga Suze. In this episode, we are going to explore what I simply call legs up the wall. For this position, we will be on the floor on our back, so you will probably want some type of cushioning, whether it's a blanket or a foam pad. If you are on carpeting, you probably do not need a yoga mat, as the yoga mat would be for traction. If you're on a hardwood floor or something similar, I recommend using the yoga mat so that you don't scooch away. Additionally, I'm going to recommend having 2 other folded blankets for prop use in a later variation. For the first variations, we will have the back flat on the floor, so you will not need those added blankets yet. You may have an idea about how you might come into this position where the back is on the floor and you get your legs going up at the wall. I'm going to show you an easier way. If you sit side by side with the wall, knees bent, you can start to lean back using a hand for support, start to bend that elbow, the feet start to lift, you're going to start to lower the back and start to pivot, you're going to start to come down on the elbows, and then your legs will be along the wall and the back along the floor. The only adjustment that you might make is usually we end up with the pelvis a smidge away from the wall. It's your call if you want to scooch the butt all the way to the wall. Some people feel their legs are more supported if they're all the way against the wall instead of the heels touching and the leg and pelvis a little bit away. So either stay where you are or scooch all the way to the wall. So some of you may just do this very first variation. We got the legs up the wall. We're not extending the legs in any particular way. The benefit of this is it's a good relaxation pose. And whenever we have the legs elevated, it's going to help with circulation in the legs. Whenever we practice an inversion, and we are inverting the legs here, it can really help boost our energy. So inversions are great to do in the middle of the day. Another common inversion that I have shown you would be downward dog. So for downward dog, we have the torso inverted. For this pose, we have the legs inverted. I wanted to point that out because some people may think that the only way you would experience an inversion is if you were in a headstand or handstand, which I purposefully am not instructing in any of my videos, as I strongly believe you should work with an instructor in real life if you're going to be learning those types of poses. Here are some variations to get some stretches in addition to this being a relaxation pose. So first off, we can extend through the legs. Remember, with leg extensions, we're always extending in 2 different directions. You would flex in your feet so that the palms of the feet are facing the ceiling and the toes are coming towards you. The heels extend up towards the ceiling and the lower back and pelvis sink actively down into your mat, cushion, or floor. I always emphasize that because sometimes when we're extending the heels up along the wall, somehow we start lifting the pelvis up. It might be really subtle, but you want to feel the pelvis fully sink down in response to the heels extending up. So they're actively extending in 2 different directions. You can move this into a wide leg stretch, letting the heels move away from each other and then start to use gravity to assist in the stretch. So the heels start to move down the wall, Once they get as far as they're going to go, if you want a little deeper stretch, you can inch the heels along the wall to get them a little bit further away from each other. Another great variation here is usually a seated position that we commonly refer to as butterfly pose, but the Sanskrit name is Baddha Konasana. To come into that position with your legs up the wall, just bring the palms of the feet together with the knees bent And here again, we can use gravity. We can have the feet slide down the wall towards us. A fourth variation can provide a little arch to your back. For this variation, you take 1 or 2 blankets, or if you have a rectangular bolster, a cylindrical bolster may work, but it may be a little precarious to be on. If you're using blankets, you want to fold them so that they would support your lower back and so that the folds are even, so that it feels even and not bumpy all along the blankets. If you would come into your legs up the wall and then decide you'd like to use blankets, even if your blankets are within reach, you would probably want to come out of the position and then go into it again with the blankets. So you'd set the blankets up along the wall so that the long edge of the blanket is against the wall all the way in, and so that you have a really nice even edge in your folds. I recommend the round side of the folded blanket be away from the wall. Just like you came into the legs up the wall previously, same thing with the blankets. They have a good width, so you should have room to sit down, again, side by side with the wall, start to lean back, use your hands, start to lift the feet, get the legs start to lift up, come down to your forearms, lower the back. But this time, the lower back will be on the stack of blankets and the shoulder blades will be resting on the floor. So in this position, your back is in a slight arch. This is a fantastic position in contrast to how our body is positioned most of our day. So if we're at our computer, if we're at the steering wheel, we're rounded forwards a lot of the time or slouched. So here we're going to get that slight arch in the vertebrae. So you get to have the vertebrae in the midsection come forward instead of rounding back. Also, the shoulders get to drop down and the chest gets to open. We tend to be very tight throughout this area because we do not keep our shoulders open very often. All of these variations would be considered yin yoga poses. So yin and yang, yang tends to be the more active side of the yin yang. Yin is the more restful or restorative. And that sounds like super easy. The idea behind yin yoga is that you put yourself into the position that you can breathe into for, let's say, at least 5 minutes at a time. And during that, you start to relax more deeply into the pose so that the muscles start to relax and lengthen more. So you end up feeling a very deep stretch. Since there is that component of relaxation, though, in this pose and its variations, you might choose to do this at the end of your yoga practice as a wind down relaxation. Or you may choose to do this series before you go to bed to help with circulation for the legs so that they are comfortable while you're sleeping. At the end of a yoga class or at the end of a yoga practice, traditionally a relaxation called corpse pose or shavasana is practiced. If during that practice you have a difficult time finding a position that's comfortable on your lower back, if you are able to come to a wall space, this can be an alternative. When we have the legs up the wall, the lower back is completely in line with the mid and upper back. When we lay on our back on our mat completely outstretched, there's a slight arch in the lower back that can cause pinching. If you experience pain in your legs on a regular basis, I would recommend practicing this pose at minimum 5 minutes every day. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Yoga Break It Down. Hit the subscribe button and share this video with friends. Remember that everybody needs yoga. So that means Ashley Judd needs yoga, meteorologists need yoga, audiologists need yoga, and you especially, baby, you need yoga too. So I really hope you join me next time on Yoga Break It Down. Bye-bye.